The customer country param report that I've used in order to demonstrate the use of parameters within reporting services. It contains a parameter, country region, which is used to filter a list of customers that are included in the report based on a value that the user enters into a parameter text box. This sort of parameter, though, has a limited set of possible values that makes it a perfect candidate for using a drop-down list instead of a text box. Specifically, it's the set of all countries that appear in the data set returned by the Select Customer by Country stored procedure. To create a drop-down list for a parameter, you need to perform two steps. First, you need to create an additional data set that will supply the drop-down list. And then you use the Available Values page of the Report Parameters dialog box to set the source of the drop-down list. Now, you're not limited to providing parameter values from a query. You can also use or provide a set of static values that the user can select from. But in this case, I'm going to show you how to create a query that provides those values. Here's a report that I've created that retrieves a set of customers by country. I'll go ahead and preview it. And as you can see, the user is prompted using a text box for a parameter value. I'll enter Canada and press enter, and I get all of the Canadian customers. So what I'm going to do is convert this report to provide a drop-down list to the user instead of just a text box. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is create a stored procedure within the database that retrieves the set of countries. So I'll go over here to Management Studio, and I have this countrieslist.sql script file opened. So it's once again going to use the AdventureWorks LT 2012 database. Check to see if the stored procedure already exists, and then create the stored procedure. And as you can see, all it does is it just gets the distinct values of country region from customer, and it links into the different address tables in order to get that information for customers. I'll execute this code. It'll change over to the AdventureWorks LT 2012 database. And as you can see, with my test code, it retrieves Canada, United Kingdom, and United States. And notice too that I'm ordering by country region, so they're in alphabetical order. All right, now I'll go back over to my report. And the first thing I need to do is create a data set that uses that stored procedure that I just created. So I'll select New here, and I want a new data set. And I'm going to name this the Countries List Data Set. I'll use a data set embedded in my report. And I'll select AdventureWorks LT 2012 as my data source. That's already there because I already have an existing data set for the body of the report. Then I'll select Stored Procedure, and I want to use that Countries List stored procedure. And I'll click on OK, and that now creates that additional data set for the report. And as you can see, it only has a single field, the country region. All right, now I need to go up here to the parameters and modify country region in order to specify that it should provide a drop-down list to the user. And I do that here within the Available Values page. In this case, I want to get the values from a query, and I can select the data set that I want to use. This is the data set that provides the data for the body of the report, and here's that data set that I just created that has that single field with the list of countries. And notice that I can specify a value field and a label field. This is handy if the value that I actually need to work with is the primary key of a table, usually an integer. And then I can use the label field here in order to determine which field is displayed, the value that is displayed to the user. But in this case, I only have a single field within that data set, so I'm going to specify country region for both of those. All right, now that's really all I need to do in order to create a drop-down list. But I'm going to take it one step further and define a default value. So I'll specify a value here, and I'll click on the Add button, and I'll enter United States. So if the user doesn't provide a value, then the report is going to specify United States. Notice too that I have an expression button here, so if I wanted to, I could create an expression that would determine what that default value is. All right, that's all I need to do to change how that parameter functions. And now I'll preview the report again, hide that window, and notice that I have a default value of United States, and I have a drop-down list that I can use to select different values. So there's all the Canadian customers, and there's the United Kingdom customers. One more thing about using parameters within a report. You can access the value of a user-entered text box-based parameter value using the parameters collection. And to do that, you use the value property. With the drop-down list parameter, Reporting Services provides access to both its value and a label. The label will often be the same as the value, but that's not required. To access the value for a user-selected drop-down list parameter, use the value property of the parameter. And here shows some skeleton code of how you do that. So the parameters collection, the parameter name, dot value. Or to access the label, use the parameters collection, parameter name, dot label. So two different properties that you can use to get those two different values.